every day b'efen prati for that day. The seder b'efen it's nimshach from the klal to the prat. It's first it's nimshach b'efen klali the klal is achayis nimshach Rosh Hashanah. Then it's nechal achar kach beis Rosh Chodashim. B'chodesh chedesh lamed yom. Yeah. So what do we see from here? The Rosh Hashanah is the Reish. Reish b'rishon l'chochad shana. B'lam never Rosh Chodashim. Rosh Chodashim. So the Shaykh is to sagen. The pasuk calls also Rosh Chodashim and Reish Chodashim. If it was just the beginning. You see, Alpinikal Pashas that Rosh Hashanah means the beginning of a certain cycle. So then you can say there's Kamer Rosh Hashanah. Like Gemara says, Arba Rosh Hashanah means. It's not a Shaila. You have Legabe Din Maestris, the beginning of the cycle is this, the Chedesh Elu. Legabe Malachim is a different, the cycle of the year starts from a different time. It's Nishkan Shaila. Alpichsidis, that Rosh Hashanah means that the Chayis, that is the Rosh for the whole year, that the Chayis, which is Nimshach the whole year. The Rosh of this Chayis is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, and then the whole year is only that this Chayis Kol is Achayis is Nimshach Prati every day. So how could you have two heads? If the Kol is Achayis is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, so then Rosh Chodesh Nisan is a Prat. There can't be two Roshim. I mean, when is the Kol Achayis Nimshach? So if the Kol Achayis is Nimshach for the whole year, Rosh Hashanah, we're talking about the whole year. Hashanah is not the Kol Achayis for 6 months. It's the Rosh Hashanah for the whole year. So the Kol Achayis, the Klal of everything is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah. It's not Shayach that there should be another Klal, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Then this is not a klal. Then Rosh Chodesh is kind of everything, and Rosh Hashanah is a prat in this. So we can zayin tzvei. That's the shayla. So that's the shayla. Lo menemer Rosh Chodesh Nisan Rosh Chodashim. Yeah. So he answers like this. So the Teres as the Chassidus brings this. The be'etzim there's two types of chayis as nimshach in the world. The truth is the Rosh Hashanah Rosh Chodesh Tishri is Rosh Hashanah. It's like the klal is a chayis for the entire year. Kernel also Nisan is nimshach Rosh Hashanah Rosh Chodesh Tishri. The Nachif das is ein sort chayis, which is nimshach the entire year, and the klal is nimshach Rosh Hashanah. The Nachif not zweiter sort chayis, that the whole year is mekabel. The whole four this whole chadashim, a whole another chayis, the whole year is mekabel, and the reish for that other chayis is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The klal for this is two different sidra chayis. Exactly what's this? To ifan does hit on it. Yeah, that's he says. I'm just going. I'm going through the Mamar as. I don't know what the Elam knows, what the Elam doesn't. I'm just we're with a statue in the middle. V'hine b'akei the kos the base fani mechayim anulei that dula saber. That's the ufta of that game. It's a parsha sad word, and that we know. It says in Pesukim ki eresh shamecha mases beisecha su'u marim enechem rumi bare elam. I mean, there's kind of Pesukim that show that there could be a dias alakus from Veld. Shas hayid zech mizbeinin in different yadim in Veld. You could know that yesh balabayis the birazu. Like the a person who's burning in the Seder of the world. That there's different hisbonos. That if a person is going to be Mesim Alev, different in Yonan that he sees in Vel, let's see how everything works together, or other things. The fact that you have every Nivras Morker from Dal this, that's right. There's a Davar Amarkiv. It's a different Echachas that is brought in Svarim. That if you're burning in the Sidra Elam, Sidra Teva, you could come to the Yediyah that Yesh Balabayis Lebirazu Asfana Gotos of Bashaf in the Vel. That's without that Kedah. The Kedah Tutuf, there are state Vardim, Yechidam Anolei, the Dula Saver. Pashas Vardim, what type of musik could you have with the Eibush of being Mizbenin in the Mitzvah Seilah? Every single nivra is mugbal. You don't see bleak vol and veld. Every nivra is a davar prat and a davar mugbal. Shemayim, be'eretz, v'chav, mazal, all prat is the mugbal to the things. So that you could from being Mizbenin, you can see that there's someone that created everything. But you can't see it, but the Eibusher's bleak vol, the fact that the Eibusher's ain't safe, that's not expressed in the world. The only thing you're going to see is that there's a creator. So the fact that the Eibusher is a creator, that you can see from the fact, from different things, as Rayas, that the Eibusher created the world and runs the world, but the fact that the Eibusher's ain't safe betachlis, is bleak vol, that's something which we don't see, the Pashas, you don't see that involved. So that's a Chiddush of the Akedah. That even the Eibusher's godless, means the Eibusher's bleak vol is ain't safe, which is l'chur is something which is the Welt is the Gvul. The Eibusher's Gedula, l'chur is something which gets a Chishtar is in Welt. Every single day, there's a certain structure of the teva, the system of teva that's on Haget Midas that was never mishtana. There's no shini and there's no hefsek. Means the fact that the Seder Abri is that the sun, like you learn in the Rambam, that the sun has the whole Seder Mahalchi Galgalim. And the Ram gives the Cheshvan is because the Seder Sibav of the sun and the moon and all the Galgalim there, they have a Seder Kavua that never changes. The Ram gives the Seder exactly how it works. There's no changes. You can predict from the beginning. There's a Seder of how the Shemesh and the Reich are mislated, the Galgal Eilam, and there's no Shinui. There's no Shini and there's no Hefsik in that Hanhagas Eilam. The Shemesh every single day and every single year has its cycle. How the Shemesh is Seir Sabriya, and Al Dere's the Gidra Tev, winter, summer. The Sidrei Ha'olam, the Sidrei Tev are the Hanhagas Tmidim, which was never a shinin. It was never like 1,000 years ago. The sun used to travel slower around the world, and now the sun travels faster. The same exact Mehirus and system, the way the Shemesh and the way the Yerech worked 5,000 years ago, exactly the same way they're today also. So the Anhaga Tmidish, Misnaik Tomid, the Anhaga Sabriya is Ba'efan Echad B'li Shinui, Me'oz Me'olam. B'li Shinui B'li Hefzit. So Adem sagt in Itzchayim, in Bezen Niker Keach Ha'insav. In them is Niker, the fact that the Eivish is Blikvol. We'll see, he's going to explain why. Those are the Zachalim. So Stama say the fact that Eivish, just an Eivish which a Keach, Mugbal, you can't come to understand the fact that the Nivel, that the Seder, that Taluchas Ha'elam is Na'efan Tmidi B'li Shinui. Oh, he starts being going through the plot. Come here, Hashem Shayireh, Fakechovim, B'chol HaGagal. So B'sibuvam Hatmidi, Shemesabevim Tamid Mizrach L'Ma'ariv. And so it was never as man that Mitamol they went from Ma'ariv to Mizrach, or they started going from Tzaf to Dor. The same exact Sibuv is B'efin Tmidi. Ve'enim Meshanu Estafkidim Ubli Hefsek, it was never a stop. Never for a second took a break from being so what's the right that it's Ein Sof? Maybe they're very, very powerful and they could continuously raise the Charum. Why is there a right that it's Ein Sof? So that's Hip to Namaz. He brings big story. It's not Maidach, he just says the Gufin. The Rashab is not Eisen to bring this in. He wants to bring God that there's two types of Chayis, which is Nimshach about. But he brings this Akeda Zagdam. Zagdam. The Mitzad Atzma, Mitzad the Nivra itself, Mitzad the Shemesh Yerech itself, Me'ach Hashem Balik Vo. First, the Shemesh, the push of the Guf. The Guf of the Shemesh is a limited body. It's a very massive body, but it's a limited body. It's not blikvol. The Shemesh is Guf. The Alter brings the Guf Samazayim Pam and Kater Arz. There's a certain Gvul to how big the Guf of the Shemesh is. So, since if the Shemesh's Guf is Gvul, so the Klal is that the Chayis HaMalubish by Guf also has to be a Chayis Mugbal. Now, the Klal is that Adavar Mugbal HaYisarachli is Hefsek Lizibuva. If the Chayis, the Kaya, the energy that the Shemesh has, would be only a limited energy, he wouldn't be able to have this in of Anhaga Timidis Blishini, because the Tchun of a Dover HaMugbal is that there must be a Hefsek to Sibuv. The Chol Bagvul Arei Mishtan. Yeah, the Musik of Chol Bagvul Arei Mishtan is much more easier to understand because, that's the Chshuz always brings Rabbeinu B'chaya, last week's parasha. The Ebesher told Adam Arishan, the B'yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas. The day you eat from Eitz Adas, was to starve. You're going to die. So the Shaila is the Peli ate from Eitz Adas, and there's nicht gestorben Yenem Tag. He lived quite, got a Riches Yamim, Adam Arishan. So what's the Yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas? So the B'chaya explains, the truth is Yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas, because Kolzman didn't finish Eitz Adas, he would have lived forever. So then, what they left to Afebik. The minute it was Nikdas Misal Adam Arishan, so now there's a limit to how long he's going to live. So let's say he ate his Adas, now he has 929, whatever it was, time to live. Now every single second that he's alive, the Misa already starts from the beginning that he's born. Because why does a person die at 120? Pastami is the same strength, 120, Mitamoli, Segetavek, because the person is a limited being. This guf could last for 120 years. Once the guf lived a day, so now how long can this guf last? 119 years. And another year, 118 years, until it gets weaker and weaker and weaker, until it's severe taste. So Davar Mugbal, the Hefsek doesn't start when he finishes. The Hefsek starts from the beginning. You have a certain amount of power, of how much I have. The minute I use a little bit of my power, I use some. And now I have less. And now I use more, I have less. So that's Machad. So Shinui, why is there Shinui? Lechatchila, when the Shemesh started, it was a much stronger than today. The Shemesh started 5,000 years. If it had the limited amount of chayis, of how long, let's say it's able to last for 6,000 years, so it already used that a major amount. So there should have been a Shinui. Then, when it started being mislev, was a Davar Chazak V'yesed. Now the guf should have been, the guf Hashem should have been shvacher, and its koyach should have been weaker. And there's no shinui. A person, you can't stay the same energy from when you're born to 120 years old, because there's shinui the entire time. Because you're able to live, because you have a limited amount of time you're able to live. The minute you lived a certain amount, you already used up part of it. So there's shinui. Now you have less amount of time. I'm saying in their numbers, but the word is there's shinui. A person gets old, gets young, there's shinui. Because there's constant using out of the chayes. And that's why it's mischaler sof. The shemesh, the same fresh guf the shemesh had 100 years today, the shemesh has today, and the same amount of energy it has today, the same chayes mamish. And as a person has to, by definition, should have been a hefsik, because the shemesh is able to, let's say it would be a chayes mukbal, able to surround the world 6,000 years. But look, after 6,000 years, it loses its energy. So when it, let's say, did a sibur, The Galgal Achi dort not gedreht the ganze Galgal for 1,000 years. So it had that energy was used already. The chayis that it's using now is a new chayis already. It would be that's already. So there's a hefsek. A person, let's say, you lived one day. The life that you live today, tomorrow the life that you live is already a new kiyum. It's not the same life as yesterday. Yesterday's life was used up. If it's a chayis mukbo, so there's by definition a hefsek to the chayis, because every little that you use is eizgenus and it's nichla. But he says, I'm just saying the nekuda is that if we coil the seder on Hachodesh Shemesh is a sip of tmidi, and there's never a shchlishus in the shinui. The zel bazach has to be that this koyach is blikvo. Because if this koyach was mugbo, that means one day it's going to end. That means there's a certain amount of energy that's there. Certain amount that had to be shinui the entire time. That's what he says. Elamai, we never used out any koyach. Why didn't we use it? Because it's blikvo. It's not a davar mugbo b'chal. That's the one thing. So here we see kenikar is a koyach ein sof. So that's right there till now. That's what Rabbi Rashab brings from the Akedas the Gabe. The Shemesh V'Yerech always surrounding the world. There's an Hoget Tmidis. Now that the Rabbi Rashab is Meisif, the Chassidus brings us a lot. Kmeke not only from the Sib of Tmidi of the Shemesh V'Yerech. See the Sib of Tmidi of the Marech HaSayel. Kmeke is also the Cholos HaNevron. The door opens the in the beginning of the year. Then it's a Herzog better. Good. Kmekim Cholos HaNevroim Mitzvah Shemai Mitzvah. It's also when they get the Cholos HaNevroim. Oh, so he says not only gets with me. We can see this with Cholos HaNevroim. Weird. Sai Mitzvah Shemai, Sai Mitzvah. So who's that with us? First of all, that you see that shit. That you see Keich Insaf. Das steht weiter about. Wie nicht das steht in der Kette. Das bringt er von anderen Plätzen. Von Chassidus Shin, this Indian. The Kette brings him at the Sib of Tmidi of the Shemesh V'Yerech. But here he has like this. Kmekim Cholos HaNevroim. Not only the Shemesh V'Yerech and the Sib of Tmidi. A regular person, you can see even B'min HaAnushi. Where do you see? So first of all, you see the Shein Kayam B'min U'B'ish. The Shemesh L'mashal, so the Shemesh Guf has no Kelayim. The Guf has Shemesh. Till now you're speaking about to get to the Sibuf of the Shemesh. Others, the Shemesh Guf has Kayam B'ish, or the sky is Kayam B'ish. The Galgalim are Kayam B'ish. That person never got weaker. The Guf never got weaker. Besides for the Sibuf. And others, when they get the Tzvah Aretz, every single Nivra is Kayam B'min. The Sug, there's no Kilayim in the Mina, in the Kayach HaLeida, you see in of Ein Sof. It's not the pshat that today, if the Kayach HaLeida of a person is weaker than the Kayach HaLeida 1,000 years ago. The Kayach HaLeida is the same starkheit. The Min HaAdam is never going to be this bottom. It's not that the Kayach HaLeida got weaker. So the Chor, if it was the Kayach Mugbol, a person is Gvul. If a person is Gvul, the Chayis that he has is also Gvul. So if the Chayis that he has is also Gvul, so how could there be an unlimited Indian in the person? The fact that a person is able to be married nach, and this person can be married again, it's Blik Gvul. And the chveis from this garden, which is in the Paris, we matzmiach more Paris and more Paris and more Paris. And there's no gvul to the so if the apple is limited, the chayis mugbol, so then the ability for it to continue should have been limited. And the pale is not. It's kayam b'min. There's no min that is bottom. So maybe that's in the blikvul. Kenikam is a kayach insaf. Question come on. Okay, there's my but that's the nekudas advar. That if it would be mugbol. What gedarf sein a hefsek in the nivra? That's the purpose. See, the klal is that a nivra mugbal only can contain a chayis mugbal, because if it's the chayis blikvos is not a nivra mugbal is not a klita chayis. If the chayis is mugbal, so how does it have an Indian? How does it promote the Indian that's ain't safe? The kiyim b'min is in the ain't safe. The kayach havlad that never got weaker. So that's a right that you see from your kayach ain't safe. That's state. So sometimes the Rashal Kaplan brings three nekudas you see kayach ain't safe. Saying that hoget midis that the shemesh never gets weak. The sib of tmidi of the shemesh is never an ifin that it's the one schwacher or needs to take a break. As in the same kayach that it had there when it started 5,000 years ago, the same kayach is being masabed today. That's in the blik. The zweite zach is that kayam be'ish and kayam b'min. That's okay. So upon him, so that's where you see of Ein Sof from the Eibishter involved. That's Ein Sof that kid is. That's the Ein. The zweite zach sagt the Rabbi is. Where is the nikar about the Kayach Ein Sof? From the fact that the Eibishter does things shalei apiteva. K'may v'nesitzias mitzrayim v'kriyas yamsuf. K'hai gavna. Yes, so it's kriyas yamsuf. It's mitzrayim k'ein ever apiteva, ein ever yachol lebrech misham. There's the makis. There's it's kriyas yamsuf. K'hai gavna. That shiddu marach is a bit lateva. So apiteva mayim cannot stand firm. The fact that Mayim cannot stand is not because the reason why the Teva Mayim is that it can't stand that's connected to the tchunis. Mayim is azam esar zach, and mitzad the tchunis it flows. That's because the sheidish shamayim, instead of the shtarshulis, is the mitzad the sheidish shamayim, mayim is azam esar zach, which doesn't stand for him. The fact that mayim begashmis it has a certain tchuna is because mayim b'sharshim has a certain tchuna. And the say that Abriyam in Keri v'sharshe mitzad the Makri Abriyam in Keri v'sharshe mayim has the agbala that it can't flow. The fact that the Eibush took what made the scary sounds, took water and made it stand firmly, because the Eibush is not limited in the Hagbalas at all. Because the Eibush is not limited in any rules. Mitzad Sidri Abriyam, mitzad the Klolim, mitzad Chukei Habriya, mayim has to flow. The fact that the Eibush was mayim with mayim, and mayim stood firm. That's right. There's not mukbal in Hagbalas. He's not mukbal in the system. According to the system, mayim has to flow. And there he adds it here. So first of all, we're not going to hear it's mizet is begoli. The mayim is you see a nest. You can't shator someone who meinen because the shemesh is a powerful thing. You know for sure that it's the Eibush is inside. But also another thing is benegeh also the type of gilui. Benegeh tanogas hateva you don't see the ein sof. It's that the nivra hamukbal is constant. You don't see bleak vol the way it's b'fnei atzmei. You see that the nivra, which is mukbal, has a teikif which doesn't end. Mash'inkin and the Inna Van you see that the Eibush is not limited in agbalas. It's not agbalas. You can take water and make it stand firm. You don't see a tnua bleak vol in itself. So what's that akeda? So the akeda says here that there's two efanim where the fact that you know b'chal there's a lukus, the fact that from being mizben in yonei elam. That's not the chesed akeda that we know from Kam Psukim that you could see su'umar merechim numi barei. Here it is. The akeda as that you could be it's nicker gdulas elukus from Bel. It's elukus. And the two efanim. One efan is nanagat midis. A zweiter zach is in nanagat shlam derechatav. So the Rashab says in the maskana is going to be that these two hamshachis, one of them is tishi, one of them is nisi. That's it. But before then, you have to understand first. He wants to bring out in order to say that the two Rosh Chodashim, Tisha and Nisan. One of them is the hamshach of the chayis of the Ein Sof of which is Melubish and Teva of Gvul, Hanhagat Midis, and the second one is the Hanhagat Nisis. You have to first explain that it's two separate hamshachas. If there's one hamshach of Ein Sof of Bli Gvul, but expresses itself in two ways, so then if when is the hamshach of Ein Sof Nimshach? If it's Nimshach Rish Hashanah, Rish Chodesh Tishrei, then you don't need Rish Hashanah, you don't need Nisan, and if it's Nimshach Nisan, you don't need Tishrei. So first he wants to be a makim that these two, that the Akeda says, these two a fan of Gilead Ein Sof and Vel, does not stam. It's one hamshach of Ein Sof that expressed itself in two ways. It's two different hamshachas. Sveba Zundere in Yonim in Ein Sof. It's not the same hamshach as Ein Sof, which is just expressed in two ways. It's two different hamshachas mitzad Ein Sof. That's what he says. And that's them to verstehen that the Shchodesh Tishrei is nimshach hamshacha, the first union of Ein Sof connected to Teva, and the second, and Nachan Nisis is Shchodesh Nisis. So Lohav and Sheirish in Beis Hamikdash. What's the Sheirish? Once we get there's two separate Sharash. Like I said before, it's not the pshat that it's one Ein Sof, and just that it expressed itself l'poyel in two ways. In the Sheirish, it's Sveba Zunder Inyanim and Blikvo. In Ein Sof, there's two Inyanim. There's one Inyan that Velt is Gvol, and Velt brings out different Tchunis, Mukbalas that the Eibush has. The Eibush could create different Inyanim Kaviyachol in Shiur. Then there's a biti of the Eibush as Bli Gvol and Velt. We have two opposite ways of the expression of Bli Gvol. One Eifen is that the Bli Gvol is not Mevatel the Gvol. Fakir, the Bli Gvol is Nizvata, and then that the Gvol has the Inyan Tmidi, Inyan Nitzvi, and it then brings the Charesh the Ein Sof. Another Eifen of Ein Sof is expressed in the fact that the Bli Gvol werd Batel. Das versteht man besser. With Nes, and Nagel is Shanam Derech HaTeva, so the Bli Gvol is a Shalei Be'erech to Bli Gvol. So B'shas Bli Gvol is Meir, the Gvol werd Nizvata. But in the first Eifen, the Gvol doesn't become Nizvata. Fakir, the Bli Gvol is Nizgale, and then that the Gvol has a Teikif Tmidi. So the Rebbe it's two separate inyanim in Ein Sof. There's one inyan in Ein Sof, the mitzad Ein Sof, he's not mevatel gvul. Fakert mitzad Ein Sof, there's a teikef to gvul, teikef to gvul. And there's another inyan in Ein Sof that's mevatel gvul, and that's Nizgal. But it's two separate sharoshim. It's not stam two separate anhagis. It's mushim two separate. So to verstehen the sherish these two anhagis that vermarktem seine ganze inyan. But these two, this inyan, the sherish inyan based on anhagis anal, that's one of the in Yonim Ikrim of this Mamar Hachodesh and Vayelach is to bring out that l'chatchila mitzad Ein Sof, there's two in Yonim Kaviyachol Ein Sof, which is expressed in these two hamshachas of Hanhaget Tmidis, which the Ein Sof is nisbated that the Gvul has a take of Mitzchi and the Bittul Marach Satav. It doesn't do that. But before that, he goes through a whole. He's hipped on a 9 there Indian until the second Mamar, until the end of this Mamar, we're going to go back to this Indian a little bit. But that's going to be one of the main Inyanim of the Hemshech. Ja, sie verstanden die Minion. okay, let me get back to the share should these two anhagas are lahak the machines were okay, it brings a kiss to the Mamar before was retter freer that Fidiri said the pasuk says Ner Avai Nishma Sodom. There's different Yonim Chassidus what the dimin between Ner to Neshama. So before the Mamar brings that what's the dimin that the Neshama is to Ner? Kamaya Ner that's always in a matter of Ratzi B'Shuv. She'el of a year Tamid. It's never as a Menucha and one cup. It's always an infant of Ratzi B'Shuv. Eil of a year. There's the Neshama is also Tamid from Ratzi B'Shuv. That's the answer I said that. The Nach Zakte Darten before the Mamar earlier that this in it there should be that the Yid should have a tunu of Ratzi B'Shuv. Nizbar, she has says Eris no Maila, two in Yadam is Nizbar. That Bechdei that a Yid should have Ratzi B'Shuv, and one in is there's a Eris no Maila. The Eibush has Me'edir a Yid. The Eibush has Me'edir a Yid is he should have a Ratzi Talakus, and there also the Eibush gives a Siyu, no Maila, that a Yid should be in a Eifen of Shuv. That's one. And then he says also, but the Iker, in order for a person to be Emes have Ratzi B'Shuv and Emes Eifen, he has to have Dafkit Ravid B'Kei Chatzmi, not Prumo Maila. That's it. In Nizbar, Yesh has two in Yadam. Yesh has his Eris no Maila. Shemeirim is Sa'adam Lisa V'chem Tzatzi B'Shuv. The Eibush has Meirim. Omnam, Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv V'kei Chatzim V'Gyasidach. He's married earlier that there's only a Siyu at his Aveda, and it only comes to Aveda. I shouldn't have that he speaks before. But the Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv is V'kei Chatzim, I mentioned that for Lein Haravin. V'kei Chatzim V'Gyasidach. Shem says the Harav Lisa V'chem is Avo Chukalalukus. That's the Ratzi. He should have an Avo Chukalalukus. And even the Hechsta Dargas and Amma. Even Avar Rabba, which Avar Rabba is dafke through Amshacham Maila, but it's but dafka that Tircha Ve'giv Aved the premise the Meich believe to Ganesh V'Amas. So Rabbi Shlomo said before, even Dargas and Avos Hashem, that a person said his own Aved Kenish the Greichen Hinsu Shalei Be'erech, but after became the Eibush is only Mamshacham Maila Avar Rabba only after a person heard of it to the maximum of his cases. Akbanos says Meirich earlier that even though there's a serious Maila, but the Iker that I mentioned Shalei heard of it. V'ashuv Ugamki Mekei Chatzim, V'ydeser Meiratzim. Kamitis Hashuv Mitzad Esam Neshama Mitzad Abitul V'Shiflus Chul Mitzad Kavos Mach Shamayim Shabbat Mishum Zel Mechin Hashuv V'Kavos El Mach Shamayim Kei Chatzim V'Gasik Mishum Zberg. That's his Meirach Barucha. So what's the code that Rabbi Shlomo wants to bring for everything that we spoke about before? That you see that it's an Indian Aveda V'Kei Chatzim is an Indian Ikri. Even though there's an Indian Aveda Hashem that a person can't achieve on his own, has to come Dafka Mamayla. But in order to be zeichet in Yadam Mamayla, you have to have Dafka Aveda V'Kei Chatzim. Only after you did the maximum people that can't start of him, then it's Nimshach Hamayla, the Av Yiram Hamayla. And certain Yadim, the main Yiram of Hashem, which is Shuv, says Ratzi is only Aham. Shuv is the Matar. And Shuv is Dafke B'Kei Chatzim. Ratzi, you can have Av Yira, which comes to Hamayla. Also that, you need to have Dafke your own Aveda. But Shuv, which is the Mataris Aveda, that's Dafke through Aveda Sa'adam. So you see that Aveda Sa'adam, that if the person does the Kavanah Sa'abriya was, Amen Z'Alein Haravin, and Alain Peils and Bezir Aviyira and Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, it shouldn't be given to Momayim. So that's correct. L'havim it tastes beer costing now. Lo mitzrich Aved V'Kei Chatzim. Why is it something again? As a man Alain at Eis Harvim Bezir, his Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, his Aviyira. Why can't they be a little bit nice and give us a little boost, a little Aviyira, a bissel Kabbalah? What's happening after Alain out Eis Harvim? That's the shayla. Ma wa Ma'ila Bezir. Ma wa Ma'ila Bezir. But so the Rebbe Shlomo doesn't come to explain. There's different beauty if you want. If you do everything Mamayla, what's the one we want to test the person. But the Rebbe Shlomo wants to bring out here that there's a Maila. The Indian Avodah is not just to test out a person. In order for you to have the emissary skashas the lakus is dafke through Avodah V'Kei Chatzim. There's a Maila. Avi which comes to Maila, a person cannot achieve the ultimate kesher to the ultimate aviyira through aviyira which comes after Momayla. The main yisrin being played with the Eibush wants to develop is dafka through Aveda V'Kei Chatzim. That's he's going to explain. Ma wa yisrin b'Avedus. Ma wa Mayla b'Avedus. Okay, that's get him. Ma wa yisrin b'Avedus. That's he's going to explain. Veinin hu deptoranas. Didn't exiv. This we're going to get this prat the Mayla the yisrin Aveda V'Kei Chatzim is also. It's not mavur mamish mefurish in the chelik of the hemshah that we're going to learn now. The Hachodesh vayelech and it's not like he's mevair. He goes back to this point to extend a bit of later in the hemshah, based on what he's mevair and these hemshach hamamorim of this group of hamamorim. But they get to the mile of his havasayesh. There's none that he's mevair here. So medem to verstehen the hemshach hamamorim later. He explains in Tikku later hamamorim the mile of V'Kei Chatzim. Okay, much better. The pasuk says, "Reingucken in the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha." Bin Eved Elokim la Sholei Avadim. famous Shailach. So the rest of the time, the Mashim that Sholei Avad Ein Rosh says the pasuk where it says before B'Shav Tabrisa Misadik LaRosh. So Erev Lakum Sholei Avad the pasuk is not repeating itself. That means that there's two. There's tzaddik. There's difference in a tzaddik and a rasha. Then there is within tzaddikim itself an Eivid Elikim and a Sholei Avad. Mashma Sholei Avad Ein Rosh. So he doesn't serve the Eivisher. He's not a rasha. Kaima mitzvahs Ein Eiver Chas Hashem Alei Yisrael. Umikonikim Ein Eivid Elikim Klal. Is that better? Actually, Mekan Kol HaMitzvahs, Vavadish, Mekan Avir, you can say a Pashta Zech. He does all the mitzvahs, but he does everything because he wants to get a good Elam Haba. Tut Alt for sich. So he's not serving the Eibishter, he's serving himself. He does everything right. He's not a Rasha, Tut Alt good. But the Rosh Hashanah says there's a mitzvah. One of the mitzvahs is Avahaftas Hashem Lekecha. And the Teichen HaMitzvah is that a person should do mitzvahs mitzad Avah. That's, so if he's Mekayim Kolim Bevadi, Yesh Begam Ken Avir. If not, is there thought in mitzvahs, thought in sein tzidkes. If he's doing mitzvahs all the sake of for his own sake, that he's not hates mishkin tzaddik. Because we say v'echikara sholeva. What's the sholeva? The Stalter Rebbe says in Tanya there's two ifanim in Beinoni. There's a Beinoni that has the heart of it, Beinoni doesn't have the heart of it. The Rebbe Shab gives a different beer. Zakt das. Nicht die Stalter Rebbe in Tanya in Perek Tezvav. The difference between being misagia lemayla mergilusay, or a Beinoni which has to have a Milcham, or a Beinoni that's a Master with the B'tiv. That's a Master that the Rosh gives a different beer. Why this tzaddik, which has Avayir and Allah Mailas, how it became a Kohen Gim Lei Avadik? Kemlish getting the Mebish. Why not? He says like this. So the way someone says the Rosh touches here Sholei Avadik means he's not the B'china of Evet. He's the B'china of Ben. Let's get into that. That's what he touches. So it's a tzaddik in the Rosh, and then there's a Yiddish is B'china's Ben to the Eibishter, and a Yiddish is the B'china of Evet. So Sholei Avadik is a Yiddish is B'china's Ben. Let's get into that. That there's two b'chinas, then you get Yiddish, Yesh b'chinas Ben, Yiddish is the b'china of a Ben today, and a b'chinas Eved. Who's that? L'famim mishkram nesham Yisrael b'shem Banim, l'famim b'shem Avadim. Yidden are called Amol Banim, Amol Avadim. Why they call them Amol Banim and Amol Avadim? Because there's two in Yanim in Yidden. There's one Yidden, the Yidden are Banim Lamakim. There's another Yidden, the Yidden are Avadim today, because the B'nim b'chei Yisrael, Banim Atam La'elekechem. And then noch steht uchsiv, Shema Yaakov Avdi, Atir Avdi Yaakov, Klibin Yisrael Avadim Avadim. So this is the thing when you get to all Klal. So every Yid, there's two in Yanim in every single Yid. One Yidin that is a Ben to the Eibishter, Klibin Yisrael Avadim, or B'nim b'chei Yisrael is not only going on Chashid, you get a Vali Yid. Every Yid has two in Yanim. One Yid that Yid is a Ben to the Eibishter. Another Yidin is that every single Yid has that he's a B'chinas Eved HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A lot of times in Mamar we say that the B'china of Torah has, the limit of Torah has to do with the B'china of Ben of a Yid. And Kemitzvah is connected to the B'china of Eved of a Yid. Shouldn't be Yid. That's it. Every Yid has these two in Yanim. Of Ben and Eved. It's Einzah. Prati is in Beis Mini Neshamas. The Prati is here says there are certain Neshamas that Iker in Yanim is Ben, and there are Neshamas Iker in Yanim is Eved. Yesh Neshamas Shekarim Banim, Neshamas Shekarim Avad. Ukamaymer Im Kibanim Im Kavad. Sounds like Im Kibanim Kavadim. That's if we're a Banim, then the Eivish should be Kafakach. And if we're a Vadim, but the Gavzak that we're both. Steht doch früher that side Banim and side. Every Yid is called Banim Atom Vadikeh. Every Yid is Avadahim. Was sagt Im Kibanim Im Kavadim? Because there's whether we're Banim, whether we're Avadim, that means that some Neshamas are B'chinas Ben and some Neshamas are B'chinas Avad. That's the okay.
We see that every Yid is Banim.
The pasuk talks when it gets on them. B'di b'chei Yisrael. That's when it's gewisse Yidden. B'di b'chei Yisrael speaking about certain. That thing now. Banim atam v'alekech speaking to the whole Klal Yisrael. Huh?
The sort, the time.
Banim atam v'alekech. That means the ganze. The Navi sagt the ganze Klal Yisrael. Banim atam v'alekech. B'di b'chei Yisrael when it gets Yisrael when it gets Alamen.
He doesn't say that.
B'di b'nei Yisrael v'adam v'adam speaking when it gets only. David just said that when you get to certain Yidden, every Yid has the Yisr to shtari kedim. I'm saying well. So the pasuk when it gets Alamen.
He feels those.
Well, Prat is very good. That's reason why it brings from Kabbalah. Oh, now, so Akapanim, there's two in Yanim in every Yid, but the Ikar said that there's the Shamas are the B'china of Banim, and the Shamas is the B'china Savadim. Now, what's the Chilik Tishin Banim mit Avadim? So here he goes through a gewisser Seder, wie the Rebbe Shabbos and Vardos. He starts like this. What's the difference between Bepashas Advarim between a Ben and a Evet? The simple Avadim between a Ben and a Evet. The son is not a stranger than the father. He's from the same family, from the same mahus. He's an extension of the father. He comes from the father, and he's from the same mahus as the father. That's the son. Mashik and Eved is a stranger, a tzveiter mensch. He's not related to the father. He was machle to devote himself to the father, to dedicate himself. But he's a tzveiter mensch. So what do you say to the shamas which are b'chinas ben, shamas which are b'chinas avad? The pash the beer. Let's get to the zaken gleich. Of course, everything about avad. Wie is chaim b'seif? The Eved hainu b'chinas naran dibya. Never Shuach Neshama Obi. What's the difference? There's Atzilus and there's Biyah. Atzilus, what's the difference between Atzilus and Biyah in Pashtus? Biyah is Nivraim. The Eibusha created a Nivra. It's not his extension. The Eibusha created something. Mashiach and Atzilus is not the Eibusha created the world outside of him. Atzilus is the Gila of the Eibusha's Keiches Kaviyah. The Eibusha's Chachmas is Gal in Atzilus. The Eibusha's Midas is Chesed is Gal in Atzilus. Atzilus is not a world independent of him that he created. It's another Mitzvah, the Eibusha Tashaf. Atzilus says that the Getlach Keiches of Chachma, Chesed, Buddha, the Feres, the Eibusha's Keiches are Nizgale, the Gila, the Eibusha's Keiches, that's Atzilus. So Atzilus is Elokus. It's the Gila of the Eibusha's Keiches. Mashiach in Biyah, is Havas Aval, Mitzvah, Eilamis. So there's Nishnevish, so it's Chaim State, Pchinas Eved is Nalam de Biyah. I mean, every Nisham, I'll tell you sometimes, every Nisham is Moshe Shechach Milad Atzilus. But the Poil, the same I'll tell you is the Moshe, same way we know that the Seder Advarim from till the Vlad, when the Vlad starts out, the Tipas, the Rekuda, the Tipas Me'echav, then it has to go through a whole process until it's Nislavish and it becomes the whole Metzias of the Ramach Evrim Shasagidim, the whole Metzias of it. And there's Lamad. The Sherish of all Neshamas are the Choch Milad Atzilus. But in order for the Neshama to be Nislavish and the Guf of Neshama, it goes through a whole long process. And it goes to such a process till most Neshamas get a form of Biyah. Never Shuach Neshama is not Salaichish in the Neshama, it's Mahus, the way it is in Choch Milad Atzilus. That you have Neshamas of the Chayes Reish B'nai Yisrael. The average Neshamas that goes through a whole Seder Shtalshalos and a whole process until the Neshama is Mistayir and the Tzir of Biyah. Neshamas that they are Mekabel the Tzir of Biyah, that's the Rever Shuach Neshama the Biyah. The Neshama that goes through a whole process, and now it's in the form of a Nivra. It has the Tzir of a Nivra, has the image of a Nivra. So then that's Pchinas Eved. A Nivra is a Metzias outside of Elokus. It's not his extension. It's the Eibusha created Biyah. A Neshama, which is in the form of a Nivra, in the form of Biyah, he could devote himself to the Eibusha. But that's a Pchin of an Eved. An Eved is a stranger, not the Odin, not for the family of the Odin. He doesn't come from the Odin. A stranger, which is Mevatl himself to the Odin. Neshama which are Pchinas Avadim are a Never Shuach Neshama Pchinas Biyah. Means that the Neshama which is in the Tzir of a Nivra, outside of Elokus, and he is Mevatl, so he is Mismasher to Elokus. That's the Pchinas Eved. That's what he says. The Eved had Pchinas Naran de Biyah. Was Ben Misha Zeichel and Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus. Means a tzaddik that by him his neshama never came into the form of a nivra. His neshama was never mishtalshal to the tzir of a nivra to Biyah. Ba'em Ifaran and neshama Atzilus. That means ba'em laich the sheirish and neshama the way it is in Atzilus. So he's a ben. Why is he a ben? Punkta sevi a ben. Is Mimchus Ha'av is not a stranger. He's not a stranger from him. He's the same host as the father. So the Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus is Mimchus Ha'av. So he b'chinas ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Pasha Sabir that he brings from inside. Okay. Then he adds another prat. But I am the Pasha Sabir of Kufiraf and Beis Isa. He says another Dort Mishteh Besel Anders. Dort Mishteh Bezim the Yad Libar Nash Kuchubich Beirak Klal. When a person knows has idea Klolos no Lukus, he knows that there's an Eibush there. Klolos the Gedis about Lukus. So Kedein Ikri Evet. That's what I'm going to find Evet. He has idea Klolos no Lukus. The Simna the Yodel Eirach Prat. He knows more Prat than Lukus. Kedein Ikri Ben Rechimidele. He's called the Balipter son. Keben the Chovesh B'Gnisi B'Chor in the base. The parsha of the Ram Hemna is the same way a son, a Eved, as Ish Zar, it's a stranger, so you don't let him into all the secrets. You don't tell him all the Bahalt and status from their tata. You don't trust the Ish Zar. A Ben that he's a Ben Chaviv, the father that sailed him all his anesthesis, and he knows all his father's eitzres. He's Hamish B'Gnisi B'Chor in the base. So the pashas of the Ram is not explaining that the difference between Aved and Ben is a mahus. He's more a neshama which able to advise cure of kaviyachal and chiba to them, chiba to the extent of the chiba to Ben. So that's a yid which knows the lukus beirach prat. And a neshama which doesn't have that level of chiba, that's yadalei lukus beirach klal. But the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rashab Pirish and Mak beirach chama, is mavayir that this is the same thing as what the Yitzchaim says. Mishesh the neshama that silis hu yadak haknisam b'raz the base. So it's from Kabbalah. He's a chalik that klal and prat is not just in the kamos. Klal is someone that knows only general, and prat he knows more. It's a different type of idea. Era klal means that you know the Eibusha from outside, not from inside. You know the Eibusha from apiseichel. That's neshama de biyah. You're not from the same horse of Elikus. You're a nivra. A nivra. So then you respect him with zayin seichel. So vifla mensch can verstehen Elikus. Vifla mensch can verstehen Elikus. That's how an outsider knows Elikus. Mashiach in Pchinas Ben is that Ba'em like the inin kumeshu. Elikus kumeshu is meir Ba'em. That's keben the chavish. He dreis sich around the gnisi the base. He's the fnim. He's in the father's house. He knows all the secrets of the father. Why is he know all the secrets? He's innovating. That's what he brings to the Yeracham. So it's the same Nekuda as what he says in Yitzchayim. The difference between Eved and Ben is Eved is that he's a different Mahus than Elokus. And the Mele is Yidi in Elokus is the way someone from outside knows Elokus. That he says Seidi al Piseichel. Yes, Ha'inish Nizos al Piseichel Piseichel. Mashik and Neshama is that Tzilis. What's the Chavish B'Knis the base? That he knows all the secrets. Why does he know all the secrets? Because by Em Lech Elokus Kameshu. Because he's Mahus. He's Mahus Elokus. Yeah, the Zeh Ha'eskin B'Kabbalah Chulu. Saying it's good to know this. I'm saying this is from the word Mekubalim. You say the word Mekubalim, but the way it touches over here, Esek Mekubalim means there's one in a Yid learn Torah. Yid is Esek Nidiyas Elikus. How is the Elikus K'Moishu is not meir by him? He's a nivra. There is no erech for him that Elikus K'Moishu is meir. So Ervei is vifol can't verstehen. Use this seichel and tries to understand. How much is able to understand? How much is able to understand the nivra? Whatever is able to understand. Kabbalah means that the Inyan K'Moishu is meir by him. That's Kabbalah. He's Mekabel the Inyan K'Moishu. Not that the ideas are according to how much his seichel is able to reach. The Inyan Kameshu is a skabel by him. So that's because the Chatchile, his mayach and his chacham seichel is seichel aliki. So if someone that your seichel is nirgash, that it's the chachma that tzilis that's nimshach lamata, it's the avish's chachma the way it's nimshach in a neshama, then that type of seichel is a keli that the emes Kameshu should be meir. That's Kabbalah. If it's seichel, it's not Kabbalah already. If it's a limud that you're learning it, I'm saying if you're reading words, really it's chaim, it's tamazay kriyas eisiyah, so that's not what he's saying. Eisiyah is someone that is shaychas to Kabbalah. So that's nesham is that's nesham is that's his. Yodil l'kuchibuch rak beiraklav. Yeah, that's a different. That's there's darkness in Ismail. That's a muslim that a yid that's a keli that a lukus kameshu should be meir higher than seichel. So the Giluy that the Mekubal has, a kind of such uptouch in the Seichel, because it's hard, it's the Inyan Kameshu who higher than Asagas and Avram is made by. It's a different type of video. Good. So, saying you say Rebbe because the Mekubal, as I start Mekubal, not about the Baba somewhere. Yodel Kishbir Rai Beir, a couple days, the Rishus, the Chavshi Begnizuchu. Nimtza, the bottom, and the Sham is the Atzilis, Va'avadim, the Sham is the Biyah. Sag upon was kommt da raus von Seifen der Yitzchayim von drei Männern that Bonim is on a Sham. What's the Atzilus? Yeah, Atzilus is not something outside of Elikus. Atzilus is that the Eibishter's Keiches are this Gabel. So it's not a Metzias Mibechutz Elikus. That's the Sham is the Ma. Why the Sham is that's Pchinas Ben that they're Mibchutz Elikus, and the Sham is the why Avodim is a stranger outside of Elikus. That's the Sham is the Biyah, and the Sham is that come into the form of a Nivra. That's the Pasha. So Dahipton read in a Tifra beer from the India Dua. He's starting a Tifra beer in the India. You put a video, but I'm saying I said something about the Baba, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm saying. It's fine. It makes it better, but I'm saying you have to cut it out if you feel that. Good. If some I get offended, yeah, we know that it's not going to happen. Good. When you do the neshama is the b'chinas banim va'avadim. I'm saying for other things. If I say something that's not appropriate, you'll have to take it out. That's what I'm saying. When you do the neshama is the b'chinas banim va'avadim. Oh, so those doctor atif the beer. This thing banim va'avadim. This is all. The emphasis is akdama to call sahemshach, but I'm not going to skip. We'll go through it. When you do the neshama is the b'chinas banim va'avadim. Shnei and Nimshach and Chunas and the emissaries till now the Havana was between Ben and Eved is that Ben is the neshama, and neshama which is Pchinas Atzilus is Ben means a neshama that Ba'em never became a tzir of a nivra. Sigablim with the mahos the way it is it's nirgish the neshama that it's a get b'chazah that it's a mohos alaki that's Atzilus it's Pchinas Ben on a neshama which is the form of a nivra that's Pchinas Eved. So now the Rebbe Shab says, but Yedua that all neshama, side banim, side pchinas avadim, shneim nimshach pchinas yichud zun datzilus. So both neshamas are nimshach from the yichud of zav v'dukva datzilus. We'll see soon, but both are nimshach from zav v'dukva datzilus. Oh, no, point number one. Now, where do we see that all neshamas are nimshach from datzilus? Kibedera klal, hisavas nesham pchinas datzilus dafke. I'm saying this was talking Kabbalah, just it was negay as one prat. In order for the to be the mitzvah of neshama, the stand for pchinas atzilus dafke. Good. B'chinas Zav and Nukva Debriya, Ein B'keichem Havas Hashem Skim Allah. Mish Gaz is time Shar Seder Rabbi. Aval Somash Atzilas, Hema Atzilas Davke. Point number one. So point number one is important to remember. All Neshamas, Sai Ben, Sai Eved, the Makar of all Neshamas is from the Yichud of Zah and Malchus Atzilas. We'll see soon why this is... okay, this we knew before also, but we'll see what he wants to build with this. We were standing before is, Avada all the Neshamas are Mushish and Atzilas. But certain Neshamas, when they go through the process, Tol and Nimshach and Guf and Nefesh B'Amis, so they come into the form of a Nivra. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya. I'm saying not all, why do you have to come up to Dvekas and Midi Chacham? But the Chacham is Meir, their Makir, and Chacham Millah, that's it. Sheikh and other Neshamas, they go through the whole Seder Shtalshalos, they go through Abiyah, like that says in Perek Beis in Tanya, Bri Yitzir Asiyah, and then they identify themselves with the Tzir of Abiyah. And it's their Misrachik from the Sheirish. Okay, but so Mela, what's saying before is not a spirit, he's saying, well, he's building up something. So it's you do it, that all the Neshamas come from the Yichud of Zavaduk of that sense. That's the point number one. Amnu Borsham Beitz Chayim, the Yichud of the Nukvul Hid Neshamas Vibriya. Okay, Shamas that says, Mamash and another Yichud Ava. Okay, at this point, says there's Yichud Ava, Bechlal, it's Mistag in Kabbalah, which is a sign again to explain this in the Hemshech over here. But the Yichud of Abba Ve'ima, von a Yichud von zwei Inyanim, wird the Hilodas and Neshamas. Yichud Abba Ve'ima vert an Neshamas. He's mechadik. Misad Yichud Ava is mishaven Neshamas which stay in Atzilis. Mashayik from Yichud Zun are Nimshach Neshamas which are Nimshach in Velt. A Neshamas that Atzilis that we're dealing with here is not a Neshamas that Atzilis is flat in Atzilis. It's a Neshamas which is mislabish in a Guf. But even the way the Neshamas in a Guf, it's nirgash that it's P'chinas Atzilis which is Nimshach in a Guf. But we're dealing with Neshamas which are Nimshach in Velt. We'll see later why this is in the game. Neshamas is mamish and yedam yichud avon, you can achem v'reim uzah. Aval neshamas and yedam yichud zun, who shenel the bibiyah. So assign neshamas the biyah. What does he want to prove from here? That sign neshamas the evet, sign neshamas the ma, and the sign neshamas of ben. They're all neshamas nisat echad are mushish in atzilis, and leidach they're nimshach in velt. We're dealing with a neshama which is mislabish in a guf in ilam hazeh. And a neshama which stays the peserek is one atzilis that comes from yichud avot, the shtamtush in yichud zun. All neshamas which are mislabish in a guf. So all neshamas come from Yichud Zav and Nukva, and they're Neslabish in the Guf. We'll see later the Hezbollah. That's the Nukva that he says. Oh, so now we come Gesh with a state that Biur that there's a difference between Eved and Ben for a different reason. We come Gesh with a state Pchinas. Pchinas Bonim Shin Shamas that Tzilitz from the Zon Shin Shamas the Biyah. What he wants to say what he wants to say is till now we learned the Mishnah Shamas the Ban and Shamas that Tzilitz is a Ben if you was made of the course. The Mokker Natzilis is meir than your Neshama B'chinas Ben. A Neshama which is not meir B'gali, it's Shedish Natzilis. But it's mislabish, it's here B'yah, so that's the Neshama B'chinas Ben. Here he wants to say that even Neshamas, that by them is meir than Mokker Natzilis, is also there's Neshamas the man, Neshamas, and there's Neshamas the Eved and Neshamas the Ben. Basically, there's two Inyanim in Elikus Melchatchila. There's one Inyan in Elikus, which is that Inyan. The neshama, there's the inyan of Zah, which mitzad Zah, the neshamas was shtamen from Zah. Arguably neshamas that's it. There's another inyan elikus which is called Malchus, and neshamas which are Musha Malchus, their inyan is Biyah. That's what he wants to say. The chilik is not that means that if your bayu is meir atzilis, your pchinas ben. It's the chilik to an element atzilis. So neshama that has his inyan is to be megad the pchina of Zah atzilis is pchinas ben. Is pchinas is one pchina. Mashayik the neshamas their inyan is to be megad the pchina of Malchus atzilis. That neshama is called Pchinas Eved. So it's a new beer. That's what he wants to bring up. We'll see that it is going to be connected. But the really do that all neshamas are nimshach mizun datzilis, and they're all nimshach in velt. What's the same? Mikom kesh zebeis Pchinas. Nish later beer versus Zakfrir. That the reason why neshamas the biyah is called Eved is because it's nisalim the sherish natzilis. Even neshamas the bedem is mer begoli their makar natzilis. Afal pikein mikom kesh there's two Pchinas. That's what he wants to say. Even the Pchina of Neshamas, that even the way they're Nimshach in Biyah, it's Nirgash their Makar Natzilis, is all Neshamas which come from Zun are Nimshach in Biyah, are Nimshach in Vel. But I think regular Neshamas is the Neshamas that we're dealing with, and Neshamas Tamas, the irregular people, it's B'chal Na Meir, the Makar Natzilis. Even Neshamas for them is Meir, the Makar Natzilis, Mikom Kim Yesh Mesei Beis Pchinas. That's what they're talking. So what is it? So Pchinas Banish and Neshamas Tatzilis, Pchinas Banish and Neshamas, he's going to explain. V'hainu avish Neshamas T'chul and Neshamas the Nukva. So that's the difference between Neshamas of Zah and Neshamas of Malchus. Zah is T'chul, the Alderech, like the late, the Begashmis, comes from a Zachar and the Keva, as Alderech Zeh. Yichud Zun is male than Neshamas. So Zah is the Zachar, and Malchus is the Nukva. It's all Pchinas in Elikus. Malchus also Pchinas in Elikus. So Neshamas that so what's the Neshamas of Biyah, Neshamas and Neshamas Abad and Neshamas Pchinas Ben? The chilik is not nivraim or elikus. Which in elikus they're megal, they come from. If you come from the pchin of za beikar, pchin of zacher, so then your neshama is the ma, and masha'ink in neshama is the pchin of ben, masha'ink in neshama is of nukva. That's malchus. Let's get to the mazim. Here neshama is the ma, the ikram from pchin of za, and neshama is the mad. What does that? Neshama is the mad ikram pchin of za, neshama is the mad ikram pchin of malchus. That's the Torah. So let's get to the mazim. So it says, "Ima years ago, Neshama is called Mechin Hazah. V'nim Shachim Chesadik Chal Mechin Hazmach." All Neshamas come from Yuchad Hazah V'nukva. Here, this is what we do. All Neshamas come from Yuchad Hazah V'nukva. And all Neshamas are Kol and Zah. Kol Neshamas are coming. You know, coming Mak Kadisha. It means they're Nimshach from Zah. Mechin Hazah. That's the solution. Mak Kadisha. To make it Kol Neshamas Nichlol Mechin Hazmach, Mechin Hazibur, Mechin Madiyah Machas. That comes. Yeshiv say Beis Badregis. Sheyesh Neshamas Zikra Mechin Hazah. Dafka. Ve'enim Sakim Kol Mechin Hazibur Machas. I'll tell you have stam in the mashal. You have a father and a mother. Some children are more devoted to the father, some are more devoted to the mother. So I'll tell you in the nimshal, all neshamas come from Yuchad Zav and Nukva, Zichud Zon. But some neshamas ikram is Zah, and some neshamas ikram is Malchus. I mean, some neshamas ikram yanam is that there should be megabel the of Zah Datzilis. Either also nimshach and Malchus, because in order for Zah Datzilis to be nisgal in Velt, it has to go through Malchus. But it only goes through Malchus with Derech Maiver. But they don't identify themselves as Malchus. No, it says they get hashpa with their chayim with their slapshus. Someone writes a seichel and someone's writing down a svara. So even though you have to use your hands, but the yad is not mitzamtzim the svara. You're not going to say that when you're writing down the svara through the klei yad to write the svara down on the paper, so the svara now is going to become more megushim according to the klei yad. The yad is just used as a tool to bring the svara down al aksab. So hashpa with their chayim. So the slapshus means that the inyan is mitzamtzim according to the levush that you're being megaled. So you have every neshama has to go through machas because the neshama is nimshach in felt in guf. In the neshama it has to go through the levush of machas, but not b'derech eslapshus, b'derech ma'ivir. So some neshamas ikrin yanim is and they only go through machas b'derech ma'ivir, and some neshamas ikrin yanim is malchus. And the reason why they have zah is for a different reason. They didn't have get a different beer, but that's the nekudah. So this is already a new beer difference between neshamas the man and neshamas the ba. Not the inyan. Till now the chilik is nivro or alakus. Here it's why taka some of the Nivraim are more nislavish in Velt and some of the Nivraim bleiben Atzilus? Because there's two inyanim in Atzilus gufa. If you're in his Zod Atzilus, that's the Shamas Lema. And if you're in his Machos Atzilus, you're in his Bia. That's Akta. Kom ki yesh mizeh beis madregis. Yesh Shamas Zikr m'chinas Zod Afke. Ve'enim es akven kol kab m'chinas Ibur b'Machos. And he brings a duk menishas Meishe. Meishe is the Shamas Lema. The Shamas L'chinas V'nachnu Mo. The Shamas Lema is Zod. Because Zod, it says that Zoh is Adam is Ma, different beauty that the Neshamas that Zoh is P'chinas Ma. We'll see later. So Nishmas Moshe was only P'chinas Ibur B'Gashmi is only Zayin Chadosh. What does that mean? That means he was only in the Nukva for the shortest amount of time. It means he never wasn't this Achad with Malchus. His Indian was Zoh. V'hainish the Nishtana was a be'etzem Muhusish v'Nishtana. Yeah, Zayin Muhusik even Zoh Datzilis, Nisham Dema. He was a Malchus only with Derech Maiver in order for him to be established in the Guf. But it's not that his Mahus became the Mahus of Malchus. Nishtana is a better Mahus. The Yesh Ikin of P'chinas Malchus, U'mis Akvim Yesir of P'chinas Ibur, K'mei Eliyahu B'shahai B'Ibur Yud Beis Chadash, Eliyahu Navi. Because Eliyahu Navi in Yanei was the Shamas Deba. So Eliyahu Navi was also a Yid was the Shamas Datzilus. He wasn't the Shamas B'Yah. But Eliyahu Navi's Inyan was Malchus, not Zah. He's speaking of the higher Dargos. Shamas Ikrim Chinas does it already. And this now is connected the Pirish that he says here to what he said before. It says the Shamas the Ikrim Chinas that's Chinas Shamas Datzilus. The Gambi the das Lamata Im Chinas Datzilus. This Kedua the Zah who Saf Elamein Saf. This already is saying it a certain beer already. Should we discuss this as Shinainin, Mazalang and Nachainin? We should do Elam Halt. We'll go a little weiter. So maybe we'll go a little weiter. The what they start saying here is, what's the difference between, I'm going to say about pep first, then we'll see it inside. What's the difference between, what he's saying, what did he say before? All the shamas which come from Yichud Zon, their market is Atzilus, and their Nimsa in Biyah. The shamas which stay in Atzilus, that comes from Yichud Avah. But the mechuvan of the Yichud Zon is the head of the shamas the Biyah, in Velt. But in Velt Kufi, you have Iker Zan, Iker Malchus. So the Kudah is like this. The Kudah is that there is, what does it mean that it's certain neshamas ikram is Zah and certain neshamas ikram is Malchus? You say that the the mashal nefesh adam. We're speaking about what's the yachas of elam is the gabi the b'china of zod that tzilus, the gabi b'china of zod v'lukus, and what's the gather elam the gabi malchus. See in the mashal nefesh adam, for example, the difference between malchus and zod usually is dibur amidus. You say a person in Chveis had avad to someone else, or he's afraid of someone else. So in Meichin, it's the way the person is becham gufsh to Meshaychas to Zulas. So this says in order for a person to understand and to Chveis verstehen gut, he has to be ba'avdala. When you want to think and figure something out, it can't be when you're in a state of regesh towards the inyan or a state of regesh towards someone else. You have to be calm. You have to be collective. You have to be in your own, be able to be in your own little element in order to understand. So Meichin is avdala. So there is a chinas avodat zilis. Red b'chanish in Welt. Mered is melet and neshamas in Welt. That's the way the kus is in his own element kaviyah. Zah is already midas. Midas is a person hat libat state. So that's already is in a state of having a regesh, a state of kiruv. He has a emotion towards someone else. But in midas, what's the inyan of midas? Of let's say ava. Ava is what's this person's regesh towards the other person. Ava is not about the other person. It's what's Reuven's feeling towards Shimon. That's the midas. I say the contrast. When you speak about dibur is not a dibur. The whole matorah, the keichat dibur is a person without speaking because has everything b'shleimus. He can have midas b'shleimus. He has alt hata b'shleimus. What's the only chesron without speaking? That the other person doesn't know what he feels. He doesn't know what he's thinking. So what's the chesron in Reuven if Shimon doesn't know what he's thinking? There's no chesron. The whole matorah of dibur is as Shimon's all this of us. So the whole matorah of Shimon is only for the zulas. So dibur, midas. There's also you can't be mitzayer midas that is. You can't be mitzayer ava if there's no something that you're nimshach to. You can't deal with yir if you're not dealing with something outside of the person that is being nimshach. But in ava, it's not the zulas itself. It's what's Reuven's relationship to the zulas. What's his attitude towards the zulas? He likes him, doesn't like him. What is the yachas of Reuven to Shimon? Mashiach in dibur, it's not about my yachas to Reuven to Shimon. It's in order for Shimon to know the information. It's about Shimon himself, not about the Reuven's yachas to Shimon. So there is saying when you speak, when you get to Zah Machos that Tzilis, what's the Eibusha creates a world. What's the point of creating the world? What's Vum? What's Zuchmen? What's the purpose? Mitzad the B'china of Zah, the whole idea of creating a world is not that there should be a world. We want a heaven, an earth, place. There's no inyan of heaven and earth. The Eibusha's mindless, the Eibusha's bligvul should be in his gala. How is the Eibusha's bligvul in his gala? That the Eibusha is so unlimited that if he wants, he can create a world. The Eibusha is so bligvul that if he wants, he can nimshach ta'avah. So in that case, the inyan of Eilam, the reason why there's Havas Eilam is not for the sake of creating a world that should be a Shemesh or a Rakia or a Yereh. The point is that the Eibusha's Keiches Kaviyachol should be in his gala. That's inside the B'china of Zah. Al derech, like I say, when you get to Midas, Zah is the B'china of Midas. Al derech, by a person. In Midas, there's already a Yachas to someone else. It's not the person is say, removed from a Shaykhas to another. Like someone else, Avet to another, Yira to another. But it's all, what's the person's attitude towards another? What's his Yachas towards another? Al derech is another course. You have Mitzad B'chinas Avodah L'kos, the Eibusha is B'chal higher than creating a world. Mitzad Zah, we are relating. The Eibusha relates himself and his Mahava Velt and his Nimshach Velt. But what's the purpose? For the sake of there should be a world, or in order to say the Eilam is Eichet Tinsa, the Eibusha's in Yanim should be in his God. That's Mitzad Zah. Sheikim Mitzad B'chinas Malchus. Malchus is that Lekut has this after Dumas like I said when you get to the person that a person has a Kayach Hadibur. A person has a Kayach not for the sake of expressing himself, to make space for someone else. A person has a Kayach as he has a Kayach a dibur, a yener zal herem v'sachreid, not for the sake of him having an act towards someone else. The inyan of dibur is that the person has a koyach to make space for someone else. There's even al-kus malchus is a makir b'sher sheshbin avran. So this is a inyan ikli also when you get to what type that's here to on read. You can see just the first few lashonos. Shamas Ikram B'chinas Zah. Well, we'll do just 2 lines because the Shamas Ikram B'chinas Zah, him B'chinas Shamas Datzilis. The Gambir doesn't lamati him B'chinas Datzilis. Kedua the Zah who saf Elam ain't saf. Lamar Ramsha saying the Elam continue Thursday. What was this week? Do Thursday or not? Because why do I'd rather finish the Indian month, or the Elam wants us to do next week. Okay, let's see what the idea is. Yeah, if you want to do Thursday or or not. Or tomorrow, I don't know what it says tomorrow, but their call Wednesday, want to do. So, with their calls, it's, I don't know if it's be Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday is up to the crowd, if the crowd is up to it or not. Crazy. This is really a Akdama Terin, so it's good to finish it, if you can finish it earlier, then we start a new Indian in a week, but it's up to Reba, I'm not looking to the Zuchtish from Meyer sein, the Reba. Even so, from idea sein. You see it? Huh?
Yeah, one day.
And also the location you'll have to figure out. But we're going to have a crowd, or it's going to, because in my experience in the past, sometimes after a few weeks, so they'll come with Zoom. Okay, we'll mention that. Say that.